Greetings, good evening, everybody. We are live with another great episode of the show, D-Live, the Convo series. Super excited to have Jessica Miranda, our state rep from the great 28th district, 28th House district, joining us this evening. So we will give it just a moment here as we do and let some folks come online. I know there was a lot of excitement, a number of people reaching out to me, excited to hear from Jessica and hear more about her background and her story and about the middle of this campaign that's going on right now in the 28th district. And it was a close race for Jessica. Fortunately, she won 2 years ago, and as the county continues to trend blue, but still a tough race again this time. So with that, we've got some people joining us now. Jessica, welcome, and thank you for joining me on the show this evening.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me, Derek.
Yeah, for sure. I know a lot of people are excited to get to, well, a lot of people know you, obviously. You're elected state rep of the 28th. But, you know, one of the cool things about the show and that people really have given us a lot of positive feedback about is, you know, hearing more about not just the person as they are today and kind of the persona that's out there, but also their background and their backstory and how you got to be so passionate for public service with a special focus on education and public education. And so we're interested to hear more about you and about your family and what brought you here today. So with that, I'll go ahead and kick it off over to you, and we look forward to hearing all that.
Absolutely. Thanks again, Derek, for having me. I am so excited. I just want to start off by first and foremost saying that I myself am a proud product of public schools. I am a product of a single mom, so we moved around a lot naturally. And I've probably been to every public school district in Butler County, maybe minus one or two. So I have a great feel of what public education does for folks, does for children, how we can lift up children no matter the circumstance, no matter the zip code from which they live, up and out of poverty and to so much more on their path that they choose in their lives. So naturally, when I became a mom, I, had a certain set of things that I thought were important to do. I thought it was important to be involved in my kids' school as much as I could. And first and foremost, when they got of school age, I made sure that I enrolled them in our local public school district. And that's my 3-year-old you can hear in the background. I'm broadcasting live from my 3-year-old's room tonight.
Well, and so you took over the 3-year-old's room, and I'll probably have a Josie cameo at any moment jumping across the desk here. So between the kids and the cats, we'll have it all covered. But so obviously with your family, you're passionate about public education. Are you originally are you a native Cincinnatian, or how did you get to be here?
Yep, a native Southwest Ohioaner. So basically, my husband and I, we got married, started building our family, and we decided Butler County was not maybe the best place for us to be because my husband is a Hispanic, amazing businessman. So Butler County is not necessarily the most friendly place for our immigrant families. So we decided that Hamilton County was the place for us. And when we searched for our first home, that's where we did so. And luckily, we landed in Forest Park, the great city of Forest Park where we live. We own our business. Our kids go to school here. That's where I was the board president for the Winton Woods City School District. So as I was saying previously, I joined the PTA, outright, right when my kids started school, because I thought, in my mind as a mom, that's what I need to do, right, to be involved in my kids' school. Let me join the PTA. And that really exposed me to a lot of opportunities that we had in our school district and a lot of things that were evolving and changing and where I could lend my voice to help with those things. So my children, of course, are beautiful Latinas, and the common complaint that we would hear when I was in my leadership position at the PTA is that, those children are English language learners are bringing our scores down. They're the ones causing all of these issues, et cetera, et cetera. And, their parents aren't involved in their school because they don't care. And I first and foremost stood up and said, their parents aren't involved because you're not sending the flyer home in their native language, right? They can't read these flyers you're sending home. So the first thing I did in my leadership role there was start to create everything that we sent home to parents. Front of it was English, back of it was Spanish. And I'm very, very proud to say in the Winton Woods School District, there's 26 different languages spoken in that school district, and we've expanded the language services for that. So, it was always really important to me to fill in those gaps as a mom that I saw weren't really being filled, right? No one was really speaking up and speaking for those folks who are oftentimes So I saw the opportunity to take that to a bigger level and run for the school board, which I did in 2013, and to my surprise, came in second place. So then I went on this new learning journey, this learning curve of becoming a board member, and what that means to be a good board member, especially a board member that supports the foundation of what public education is meant to be. And so we took, the language services to a bigger level across the entire district. We took educational reform head on to a bigger level. Winton Woods is one of only 2 school districts in the entire nation that teaches project and problem-based learning from pre-K through 12th grade. So that I'm really proud of. And, our kids are doing fantastic regardless of our crazy and deceitful report card system that we know exists in our state. And so being a board member gave me the front row seat to see how much the state legislature matters to our schools. A lot of folks don't know this unless you serve in these positions, but it's almost like every day, multiple times a day, there's a new mandate that teachers have to adjust to, educators have to adjust to, superintendents, treasurers, etc. The list goes on. And, I started saying, well, why is this? Why are there people in Columbus who have never had experience on a school board, who have never been a teacher, who have never been an educator in any kind of capacity, let alone support staff, right? Why are they making these decisions? So that is really what made me want to jump up and run for the state legislature. So I started researching who my rep was at that time, what they supported, what they believed in, and it was quite frankly the opposite of everything I supported. My opponent at that time wanted people to be able to carry their guns in schools and all this crazy stuff, and didn't believe in putting money where our mouths were in the state budget to support urban school districts, which Winton Woods is an urban school district in a suburban setting. So that's really what caused it. Threw my hand in the race, in the 2016 race, and we all know how 2016 went for a lot of races, from the White House all the way down to schoolhouses.
Right.
And a couple weeks after my husband and I got our name on the ballot and decided we were going to run, we found out we were having our 3rd child. So that really put a damper in the kind of field game we knew we needed to have to win this very much so purple district.
Right.
And let me just back up and say, my district, for those of you who don't know, goes from the city of Forest Park at the top of Hamilton County all the way over to the city of Montgomery and Sycamore Township. So I represent 13 total municipalities, and I'll go ahead and list them out for all of the folks joining us. So Forest Park, Springdale, Green Hills. I have a tiny piece of Springfield Township, which we call the Pleasant Run Farms area, if you all are familiar with that. And then I have Sharonville, Evendale, Glendale, Redding, Deer Park, Blue Ash, Montgomery, Sycamore Township, and Madeira. So I know that's a lot, but if anyone listening,
that was all. I was counting. That was all 13. You nailed it.
Yeah. So and so 2016 we didn't win, right? We lost, and a lot of people had kind of a lost faith in this district. They thought, very much so the first time I ran, that I was the sacrificial lamb, right? Like, we're never going to take that district. It's never going to be blue again. We've lost it, etc. But we've seen over these last 4 years that Hamilton County is increasingly blue.
Right.
And I always had faith in that district by looking at the data and the numbers, and I knew we could flip that seat. So without hesitation, I said, well, I'm going to run again in 2018 because I don't give up, and we're going to win this time. So we learned a lot of things that we shouldn't do. We learned a lot of things that we should continue doing. And by God, we won in 2018 by 56 votes. So I am living proof that your vote truly does matter, especially in our local races. And that's,
Yep.
the sermon I tell anyone who's willing to listen to me is that if you really want things to change, if you really see a need for different representation in your government, if you want people who look like you, right, serving you in all different kinds of capacities, from the schoolhouse to the Statehouse to the White House, you have to get out and vote. So we won by 56 votes, and here we are now. I'm a freshman legislator in the Statehouse, and it's been quite the whirlwind, but I am just so very proud to serve the Great 28, the little over 121,000 constituents that I have.
Wow.
Very, very proud. We've restored constituent services in this district to, the umpteenth degree. My constituents know that I am accessible, I am approachable, and anything they need, any state resource they need connected with, they can contact me anytime, whether it's personally or through my official office. We are readily available, and I take the time to sit down at my laptop and answer most all of my constituent emails. I don't make my staff do that. I call people back when they say they want me to call them back. Even if it's a tough conversation, I want to hear them. I want to hear their perspective. It's my job. I work for them. So it's literally the least I can do, right? And I just think that's so important now, especially in 2020. We really have to elect people to possess that. If we can't find people that simply do that, government doesn't work.
Right. And I think you really...
You can clearly see that. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I think your Wi-Fi might have got a little choppy there for just a moment. But I was going to reiterate a couple of things. I think what you're saying about constituent services is amazing. And that's one of the challenges that we have in our state, being so gerrymandered, where you don't have these competitive races, and now we've seen a big outcome of that, right? And we'll get to that with this, people being arrested up there on the other team. But you get so if it's not competitive, and then you can disappear, you don't have to do anything. You know your seat's safe. And so there's just a laziness and probably all sorts of things, kind of creep into it. But the other point you made, I think, is we cannot reiterate enough, especially for those of us involved in local politics, how every vote does matter. And now we've seen it even to the national level, right, where really it was a couple of thousand votes in 2016. You mentioned the 2016 election. It was a couple of thousand votes in a couple of states that swung the entire national election. We saw your race incredibly close, 121,000 residents in your district, and 56 votes was the winning margin. Literally every vote counts. The city of Cincinnati, we had our last council race came down to about 225 votes between the 9th position and 10th position, not on council. And then we saw with issue 7, right, the SORTA levy, Hamilton County wide, and it was less than 1,000 votes was the difference. So there's so many of these examples now that literally every vote counts, and I don't think we can stress that enough. So I appreciate that you brought that up. So just kind of moving on, that's my little soliloquy on we all need to vote. Let's just kind of move forward. We kind of tend to follow a story arc here on the show and bring it up through the kind of the current times. But I did have a question as a freshman representative, and going from a scenario, just you were a mom, and then you wanted to get involved because you were passionate about these issues going on in your school system with your kids, and then you got on the school board. But then you get into a head-to-head race, right? Well, 2 of them. And now coming up on number 3, where it's this, and it's high stakes stuff, and it's ruthless. It gets ruthless out there. What is your kind of take, Ben, on that? What has been, I think I'm going to do a mean tweets thing, because you get some of this stuff, but it's just poisonous. And so, What is your thought been about about campaigning, going from just a concerned citizen to being in that role, and then over the first 2 years, kind of the ups and the downs or things that you didn't expect, just some little insights or tidbits maybe.
Absolutely, and I think I'll start off by saying these kinds of races, arguably any kind of a competitive race, which is why it's important that we have seats that can be competitive in the first place, right? Because if you're safe, to your earlier point, you're absolutely right. You don't have to work for it.
Right.
Who are you working for?
Right.
Your view is skewed and it's completely biased. And then you don't get held accountable. There's no accountability or oversight. But you're right. These races do get very ugly. They do get very personal. There's crazy smear attacks that happen. I mean, if anyone was watching or tuning in the first time I ran in 2016, I'll never forget, Derek. I was sitting down at the end of a long night, and I clicked on Jimmy Fallon, and that was the point where I realized, holy cow, this is nuts, because every single commercial break was a smear ad about me.
Wow. Calling
me this, calling me that. And my husband, my kids, and my mom comes up from downstairs. She's like, what in the world is happening? I had cousins from all over the state calling me. And I was like, wait a minute, you're seeing this commercial where? I was like, well, okay, good. That's good to know they're wasting their money in that market and not right here in this market where they should be. But it's a downright dogfight in these kinds of districts that could really go either way. And that just speaks to the importance of, why I like to do these kinds of things. This opportunity right here, just sitting down, talking with you, getting personal, because I think it's important for my constituents and the people I serve to know that I am an actual human being.
Right.
Especially with all of the things that are happening right now with corruption in the political world, period. I am not a politician. I will tell this to anyone who listens. I am not a politician. I don't come from a political family. A lot of my family that I grew up in are conservative by nature, so the fact that I've got woke and became a Democrat is a miracle. Mm-hmm. But it just really takes the human factor out of a lot of things when you see the hatefulness going on. So I love having these events. My delegation and I, as you know, have a standing Friday event where we do lunch with your legislators. Small plug. We don't have one tomorrow, but next Friday we'll be back to tackle and talk about student debt crisis. But anytime that we can remind people, like, hey, I'm a mom, just like you. I'm a parent. Right. I am living a real, actual life with real, actual family that counts on me, and I'm a human. And when we take it to such extremes and start twisting the narrative and making something that it really isn't, and then not to mention they can say whatever they want and not be held accountable, right? Because there's no little asterisk at the end of their smear ads that says, oh, here's where we found this information, here's the proof in the pudding, because there is none.
Right.
We don't have code that says they have to prove what they're saying is true, which is, another problem that needs legislation to fix in and of itself. But
we had our right wing Tea Party group Coast. I don't even like to say the name, but actually sued for the right to lie in political campaigns as a First Amendment right. And so, if you need to know anything about that organization, you could probably just stop right there. And say that's sufficient, but it's sad that it has to be that way, and we can't just have, especially at the more local level, just a healthy debate on the issues, But
right.
I guess
you're
that works for
absolutely
some
right,
people.
and I cringe every time I hear that word. Coast. Because after the first time I ran and lost, unfortunately, they tried to come after me in my school board president capacity. Because, that's what they do best. They go after governing entities and sue them for taxpayer dollars and just funnel it back into wherever they're putting that money on the backs of Ohio taxpayers. So it's really cause for concern when we don't have footnotes, when we don't have proof of what you're putting out there, especially when it's so twisted and it's so just factually wrong. I think facts matter, and we really need to instill that back in these political campaigns so that we can bring back healthy debates and we can talk about real, honest issues that really matter to families in your district, So, yeah, I've had my own run-in with them a time or two and had my own little soliloquy that I did at a Board of Education meeting talking about I'm not going to give you a dime of taxpayer money.
Yeah, they needed to fund their Jeff Ruby dinner tabs. Is where they go with that. And it's funny. It seems that maybe they could. Speaking of rooting out corruption and wasting taxpayer dollars, maybe that crew could have been up in Columbus figuring out what the hell the householder was doing up there, and the Speaker of the House. That whole deal smelled funny. From the get-go, and when you talk about these energy companies, billion-dollar corporations coming to the taxpayers with their hands out, and now you see, you always follow the money, right? But we're talking a lot of money here. Can you fill us in, give us a little bit of the background on that? I'm sure people have heard about it. Maybe they don't understand all what's going on, how that went with House Bill 6. And even the speaker, he was the speaker, he came back and got voted in again. And a number of people gave up their leadership positions rather than to go and support that. And it turns out this guy's as rotten to the core as could be. Can you just break that down a little for us, how all that went?
Yeah, sure. So first and foremost, a historical amount of money. And, I know that it's an open and ongoing case and that we're, supposed to always say innocent until proven guilty. But, when the shoe is on the other foot, everyone is very, very quick to judge in corruption cases. So I think we have every right as Ohioans who are shocked that this even went down in our own state. And I will tell you, a lot of folks are playing the surprised statement. Oh, I'm so shocked. Oh, I'm so surprised. I can't believe this was happening.
Right.
Really?
Right.
Were you watching? Were you paying attention? Because folks like me were out here screaming about it from the rooftops and getting, the brunt of the backlash for certain votes we were taking. And, a lot of us kind of knew that history repeats itself. This isn't the first time that there's been an investigation. If you watch that press conference at 2:30 the other day when this all happened, I think the FBI made it very, very clear that they've been investigating this for a very long time. And like you said, they're following the money. It's not very hard to put pieces together looking at campaign finance reports. And I know, the media and the reporters are doing a very good job. I feel like I'm glued to Twitter this entire week looking at the next report, the next report, the next report, and just article after article of uncovering all of the things that went down since the get-go of January 2019, when a lot of us freshmen stepped into that building, that very sacred building to serve the people who elected us to do a job for them, and we were thrown right into that epic speaker battle. And then right after that, we get the budgets out of the way, and then we're thrown right into House Bill 6. And so if you're not, constantly on your toes and paying attention to what's going on, you could get wrapped up in that and make the wrong mistakes, and votes could be placed in a different way. Mm-hmm. But luckily for me, I have a very strong village behind me. I have amazing support through people I consider my mentors, through people I talk to on a daily basis to help me through this, right? Because not one of us can do this by ourselves. It takes a village. Right. We all need to do this together, and we all have to be there for each other. That way we're making sure we're making the right decisions as elected officials and as public servants that betters our communities, betters our quality of life, doesn't make it worse and add to corruption that just absolutely had no oversight and no accountability. And when you have that much money, that's a lot of money to do a lot of talking and have a lot of influence all over the place.
So there's so many angles to this, but to just break it down in a nutshell, First Energy is an energy corporation, has two nuclear power plants up in Northeast Ohio that are struggling for whatever financial reasons. And so they're looking for state help for that. House Bill 6 ended up tacking, $1, $2 a month, starting in this January coming up, on every single ratepayer in the state of Ohio is paying an extra $1, $2 a month, which you add up how many households there are. It's a lot of money, right? And so you can see why they're fighting for this. But somehow this is through one of these dark money PACs, $60 million that was controlled by the speaker householder, who's still the speaker. God gets out of jail and waltzes apparently right back into the Capitol building like nothing's going on and presides over, which is crazy to me. But $60 million he had under his control, and the next thing you know, he's behind on his taxes on his second home down in Florida, and all of a sudden that gets paid off, and all of a sudden he's putting money into that and all of these other things. And who knows where all the tentacles of this end up going. But we're talking about $60 million. That tells you how important this is to some of the big players. It's in it, like it's a mind-boggling level of corruption. I guess if you're going to go down swinging for the fences. I don't know. But meanwhile, taking money out of the pockets of every single household in the state to get this money that you're going to use for your, like, that could not be more corrupt and against the people of the state of Ohio, all of them, including his own district, right? And he's still there. So what's going to happen now? Where do we go from here? Are we going to get this repealed because there are other aspects where this is like blocking renewable energy and other things like that? What do we think is going to happen now?
Well, first and foremost, I think you hit the nail right on the head. This is just the tip of the iceberg, So there's not an hour that goes by that I don't see another news story on my Twitter feed and read that article of the amazing work that the reporters are doing, putting all these pieces together. We're catching up, to what has gone on. Speculate or enhance rumors or, have hearsay, but this is a sad day for Ohio. When it was at play here, and the amount of corruption, potential corruption, I should correct myself and say, that has happened. Right, alleged, on the backs of, like you said, our families and our ratepayers. And I know there's so many different angles to, whether or not House Bill 6 was good for Ohio. And I know I agree. I've talked to a lot of professionals in this realm. A lot of people agree nuclear power is one of the cleanest kinds of power, what have you. And that may be true, right? But it doesn't take away from the fact that the bill didn't just bail out 2 nuclear power plants. It did a lot of other things, a lot of other damning things to renewable sources here in the state of Ohio and everything else, not to mention the rate paying issue, right?
Right.
So where we go from here, there's 2 proposals right now in the Statehouse. There's a Democratic version of repealing House Bill 6, and then there's a Republican version of repealing House Bill 6. Press conference saw today that he quickly said he wants to repeal House Bill 6 now. I think, he said one thing yesterday, and now he's on the train, so to speak, today.
The governor, because
So I think we're going to see that happen.
So that was the governor that was saying he was against it before he was for the repeal. So yesterday it was that, but now he sees where this is going. So he's like, well, I got to get out in front of this train because this can't stand under these circumstances.
Right. So there's some proposals. We obviously need to work on those first and foremost. But before we can even get to any of that, before we can even get back to the people's house and get the work done for people, the the elephant in the room, I guess, pun intended. Side note about me, I wanted to be a stand-up comedian when I was coming of age, so there's my little joke for you. But the elephant in the room is we have to do something about the speakership, the leadership of the majority party. So, time will tell what we're going to do there, but I think you've seen, as this has transpired this week, that there have been a lot of leaders within the Republican Party that have called for his resignation. So they're very clearly all asking the same thing, and he was asked if he would resign, I believe, and he said no. So I don't know where we go from here. We're going to have to figure that out over the next couple weeks, because the important work that we do for Ohioans can't begin or can't continue until we figure out that very integral piece.
No, it's like, have you no shame, whatsoever. It's kind of mind-bogglingly crazy. Not often I'm at a loss for words, but here that's just about the case. So let's go on and move forward a little bit. We talked about your prior races. Let's talk about the current campaign. And so, we've had, a number of our other great Democratic candidates on here kind of talking about the challenges now. It's different with COVID. You're not having the festivals and the parades and all these kinds of things going on. It's a little more challenging. We're doing stuff like this more, being more creative and reaching people online, so on and so forth. But what's this been for you? How is the campaign looking right now? And as the county's trending blue, hopefully the 28th is as well. But I don't think we can just say it's the county trending blue. I mean, you're a great candidate, right? And now you're a seasoned veteran. How's the state of your race at this time with 100 days or something like that, just about?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I mean, here we are living in an unprecedented pandemic, and we have to get creative, right? So we've gotten very creative. We can't do all of the things that we are accustomed to doing on a normal race and a normal field game in a normal year where COVID-19 wasn't even on the radar. So we have very quickly, changed our campaign plan, so to speak, and we have to do things differently. We have to think about, stopping the spread of this virus first and foremost, and not putting other people in danger when we come into contact with them. So we've gotten really creative. We're doing all kinds of cool things. I think we're all talking about the Zoom. We're all getting zoomed out because we have so many Zoom meetings that we're doing now. Instead of going to events in person, we're going to different Zoom events. Which, I thought in the beginning, I was like, oh, this will be convenient, but it's a lot, it's just like we were going to these events in person, just less travel time. But yeah, I wanted to spend just a little bit of time talking about the state of races and just giving folks a comparison, especially with what is happening right now in the news. And, we've talked a lot on this segment about the difference between a safe race and a contentious race in a very purple district like mine, so to speak. And, all the things that are happening in the news right now, this has been happening for a long time, for a long, like years. I can point back to the first race that I ran for this seat in 2016, and you can look at the campaign finance reports on the other team, and there's clearly dark money that was being funneled into that race there.
Right.
So, to put it in a comparison, and these aren't exact numbers, but if you're in a safe seat, it's solid red or it's solid blue, you don't have to raise much money for your race. You're pretty good. You can scoot by without having to raise too much money, maybe a couple $1,000s. In races like mine, in my district, in 2016, there was upwards of $700,000 being spent against me.
Wow.
The 2018 race, almost $500,000 to try to keep that seat. And we still won by 56 votes. But if you want to talk in terms of comparisons, that's a lot of money to try and keep a seat that serves a little over 121,000 people, one of 99 seats in our state. So just to put that into perspective for folks, when, you have so many candidates running, so many amazing people, my colleagues are amazing, but when you really want to look at campaigns that you want to give to that really gets a bang for your buck, so to speak, or you want to make a good investment on your political donating money, it's in races like mine. Mm-hmm. Because your donation in these people-powered campaigns, right? Because I don't have dark money behind me. I don't have corporate donors that can help me keep this seat. My campaign is powered by the people. It's powered by the hardworking families in the Great 28 that love and support me, and I love and support them right back. And they know they can count on me to do that job for them and do it genuinely and to the best of my ability. And we have to start putting our investment behind these kinds of people-powered campaigns so that we can really start to have a say in state government. And I think it comes as no surprise to anyone that, the Republican Party has been in power in the supermajority in all three levels of our government in the Statehouse for quite some time. Mm-hmm. And when you have all of that power, all of that money, what lengths will they go to keep that power? And I think that is the exact battle that we're fighting right now to take back the Statehouse. We want to flip our Statehouse, but we need you and others to help us do that, whether it's in terms of donating dollars or it's in terms of donating your time and your treasures to help us get out there and reach as many voters as we can. But we're coming up on 2021, and I think everyone knows 2021 is redistricting. We have a crack at drawing fair maps to ungerrymander my seat and so many other seats across the great state of Ohio. And we have the opportunity, if we keep, I'll back up a little bit and talk about what has kind of happened from 2018 to now. In the 2018 race, we were successful. The Democratic Party was successful at flipping 6 seats, one of those seats being mine. Mm-hmm. If we can keep those 6 seats this year in 2020 and pick up at least 2 or 3 more, that will end, finally, the Republican supermajority in the Statehouse. And then we can finally start protecting against things that we haven't had the votes to do before. And another caveat to that, probably the most critical piece, is that we, your state reps and your state senators, draw the lines. We not only draw the lines for our seats, but we draw the congressional seats too. So if you want to talk about money that's going to be spent in campaigns and money and people-powered campaigns that we need for seats like mine, that's where it's at in these flip seats, these flip opportunities. So we have to keep these 6, build upon those 6, and then we will hopefully get a voice at that table when it comes time to draw those fair maps in 2021 so that we can change the course of Ohio and make Ohio a fairer map and a fairer place for both sides of the aisle, right? Because like President Barack Obama said, our democracy have one-party rule. That doesn't work. It doesn't work for people. They're not getting the best of us, the best of what we can give them as public servants. So, well,
and we've seen how corrupting it's turned out to be. So case in point. But I think you bring up a great point about your race and why it attracts so much outside money, because it is so competitive and a handful of races like this around the state. So to that note, I think people, whether they live in your district or not, are well served to support you to get engaged on this campaign. Drop a donation on your website, which is correct me if I'm wrong, Jessica for Ohio?
Yep, jessicaforohio.com.
Jessicaforohio.com. I will drop that in the comments here. And speaking of the comments, we've had a number of people stop by and say hey. Marco Trujillo says you're the best. We already know. Michelle Mueller. Michelle Mueller is here. She's been with us the whole time. And of course, you're a great gun sense candidate. And Michelle dropped the link here to to get mobilized and make calls for you. So people have the opportunity to, to donate some time where just from home, you can just make phone calls, right? And so if you sign up to either on the link that Michelle has dropped there or on your website, I'm sure there's a volunteer link on your website that people can get engaged that way and also drop a donation. Crystal Dandridge stopped by, says thank you for looking out for the taxpayers. And Elena Moten, one of our favorite Cincinnati's finest, stops by and says that you have integrity, and she loves you. Met you at the FOP, so you got a lot of love in the community, that's for sure, Jessica. Everybody, this is one of our most important races, as we've just outlined why, across the state of Ohio, that's going to impact not only this seat and Jessica personally and her campaign in the 28th district, but the entire state of Ohio. When you talk about these are the folks that, depending on how this goes, we can have much more influence in redrawing these districts, the state districts and the congressional districts. So this is an extremely important race. So I urge you to get behind Jessica, volunteer with her campaign, or go ahead and drop a donation as well. So with that, any closing comments, Jessica? This has been 40 minutes, and it just goes by like that, and a great conversation. But any closing thoughts to leave us with?
Yes, it does go by fast, but thank you. I just want to thank you so much. If I could reach my arms around and give you a virtual hug, thank you so much for providing this opportunity, providing this platform. People, let them know truly and genuinely who we are and what we're fighting for, versus what the smear ads are going to portray, right? Because that's not me.
Right.
That is a twisted version of a non-factual lie and argument. So I love any opportunity like this to be in front of people, to let you see me as the fellow human I am, and know that I'm just a mom, I'm a small business owner, and I'm someone just like you that, lives and works every day to provide a better life for my family. And I really do take that to heart in my job as a state representative in the Statehouse. It is my job as an elected official to ensure that we have the quality of life that we deserve here at home in the Great 28 for all of us. And I mean all of us. I'm wearing my awesome shirt that Ben Brady from the UAW got this from him one day. I was going to wear my Proud Product of Public Schools t-shirt, but I decided to keep this one on. No hate in my state.
I love it.
I love it. But hate, has no place in our society. It has no place in our county. And we have to, if we want to get the things done that we can all agree upon, addressing systemic racism in policy, addressing gun safety policy in the Statehouse and beyond, bringing our tax dollars back home, back to our schools, funding our schools constitutionally. Who would have thought that that's such a fight that we have in the Statehouse all the time? Our school funding mechanism has been deemed unconstitutional for decades, literally since I was born. Why are we not doing anything about that? Instead, we're pushing corrupt energy bills, right? So we really need to start just talking to the people we have running in local races. Get to know them, get to know who they are as people. And if we want things to change and we want our families and our kids and generations to be looked out for, we need to start electing more people that look like us, talk like us, work like us, and represent us to the best of their capability. And I hope that my constituents, I've been able to prove to them that I'm that person here in my first term as a freshman legislator, and I want to continue to serve you and your family in a second term so that I can become a sophomore legislator and so that we can redraw fair lines, address public school funding, bring our local tax dollars back home to our local governments, fix transportation in this county, and the list goes on and on and on and on. And if we can break that supermajority, we can start getting to work on those things that matter.
Right. Well, I'll tell you what, as a final comment here, Bill Gallagher just dropped by to say he was on a virtual fundraiser with the judicial candidates and thanks to us for doing this. Go Jessica. I agree, Bill. And quite frankly, we would all be better served to have a lot more Jessica Mirandas serving us in elected positions everywhere, quite frankly. So your authenticity really shines through, and I think people do see that. And so thank you for joining us. With that, everybody jump on Jessica's jessicaforohio.com. Jump on her website, sign up to volunteer, drop a contribution, whatever you can do. She greatly appreciates your support, as do we all. And as always, tell us your social media. Where can they find you on social media?
Yes, so Twitter and Instagram, follow me at Jessica E. Miranda, Jessica E. like Elaine Miranda, and then Facebook is Jessica for Ohio as well. So please follow me on social media. I'm very accessible on all social media networks, try to keep everyone as up to date as possible. And as we all know from this conversation, there will be a lot of news coming your way over the next couple months. So stay tuned, keep in touch with me. Whatever you can donate, even if it's just $1, $3, $5, $25, everything helps this people-powered campaign. And I just want to thank you so much again, Derek, for having me. I greatly appreciate it. Appreciate your time, and thanks for everyone tuning in.
Thanks, everybody. At Derek Ballman, you know where to find me. This will be uploaded, as we do with all of our episodes of the show, archived on my YouTube channel. Give me a subscribe on there. Derek Ballman, you should be able to find me. And with that, we're going to go ahead and sign off for tonight. But thank you, everybody, for joining us. Thank you so much, Jessica. Cincinnati, as always, peace and love. Be safe. We love you all. Have a great night.